Hello, I'm Pamela C. Johnson, and I want to welcome you to my little forest cottage where I'm going to show you a little painting tutorial from outside on the deck here in this beautiful forest where I live in Southwest Washington. And that is actually the tutorial I'm going to show you. I'm inspired by trees. I love to paint trees. I teach watercolor classes on how to paint trees. So I'm just going to do a little short demo to show you how to do a simple tree, very easy, very free. You don't need to have drawing experience or painting experience. I'm going to show you a really, really easy way to bring a tree to life. So let me turn on my demo camera, which is right here. Let me get that and show you what we're going to do here. So I've got some watercolor paper and a number 4 round brush. I've got a little palette of watercolor and a Stabilo pencil. And to get started for this very, very simple tree we're going to do, I'm just going to simply draw a straight line. How easy is that? Now, this is like a watercolor pencil, so that line is going to actually activate when water gets to it. Water and paint. I'm going to spritz my colors really quickly. I got a little bit of a mess here, but it'll still work. I have raw umber today, sap green. I also have some quinacridone gold, some quinacridone rose, cerulean blue with a little bit of gamboge yellow that kind of hopped the line there. But let's get started with a little sap green. I'm just going to twirl my brush. And from the top, I'm going to just kind of start and kind of go over like this. And I load up a little bit more paint, on there. I want it a little bit heavier, so I'm going to get a little heavier pigment on the brush. Notice that this looks pretty much like scribbles, doesn't it? If you break it down, that's not so intimidating. Can I paint a tree? I'm not sure. Can I scribble? Yeah, I can. Now that line that I put in there, let me just kind of lighten that up a little bit. Kind of smear that out, smudge it around. At the same time, the paint is getting smudged. Kind of cool. I'm going to get a little bit more water and just add some movements. Watercolor is a water medium, surprise. And so just adding more water can add more movement. The neighborhood blue jay, I don't know if you can hear him, but he's squawking about something. I'm going to get a little bit of this raw umber and then I'm just going to kind of play with that raw umber a little bit. Kind of give a little bit of legginess to this tree very lightly, very, very lightly, but see how effective that is as it blurs together. While it is still nice and wet, I'm going to drop in, oh, I love that, some Quin Gold. Look at that. Quin Gold plays so nicely with everyone, especially the greens. And while I'm at it, I just want to put a little bit of also this Quin Rose. I like to have surprises in my paintings. It's my tree. I can put whatever colors I want. So why not highlight my tree? See how it lightens up quite a bit to a light pink. Now, if I want to make it a little bit darker in some places, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to hold it straight up and down to get it right on that point. And just kind of, there we go, and a little bit more tippy top there. There we go. And just glide it around a little bit, being quite free and intuitive. I think I want a little bit of ground down here. I have a lot of raw umber in the tree stump, the tree trunk. So I'm just going to drag it out of there. Look how far that pigment goes. Pretty nice. And then what about back here? I could just leave it as is. I mean, it's a fine tree right there all on its own. And look how quickly that we did that. But I'm going to grab my spritzer here and spritz my paper because that gets a lot of water on the paper very quickly for me. And I'm going to dip into that Cerelulean Blue that's a little globby with the Gamboge Yellow. I am a messy painter. That is 100% the truth about me. So my palettes often get a little mixed up like this. I want to get a little bit heavier. Notice how I'm being, again, like pretty scratchy and scribbly here, and it's uneven. I like that. Notice how I'm keeping away from that green. While that's all nice and wet, it would blur together. And I do like my colors to blur, but not this part. I want to keep my sky kind of separate. There we go. I want a little bit heavier in some places, so I'm on purpose. Gonna kind of squiggle through there. I'm gonna grab a little bit of that Gamboge Yellow and some more Quin Gold. Get some variations in the sky. Stay with me for a second. This is gonna look a little messy for a bit, as art often does, but I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do here. I'm moving very quickly. I'm a fast artist, but also I want to take advantage while it's just everything's just nice and wet. You get a little bit more purple, and I'm going to actually just splat by tapping. See how I'm doing that? More water, some Quin Gold. I've got quite a bit going on here. And now here comes the really fun part. I'm going to take this paper towel and kind of squish it up, get it a little bit wet, and then just kind of twist it around in random spots. Look at that. Isn't that cool? And now this has become far more interesting, hasn't it? By picking up some of those colors. And then I'm going to come back in and just add ever so little right there. There we go. And maybe curve over here, giving the suggestion of some clouds and a sky. And I'm being very expressive. There we go. And then down here, if I want to put just maybe a little bit of green, I'm going to wet it down there, get just the tiniest bit of green and let the water carry it around. Back to some of that Quin Red, because it just adds some interest, some color. Be a little bit over there. And I think I want a little bit of Gamboge Yellow, put it right on top. Gives it just an interesting mix of colors. And then I'm going to grab my Stabilo, which can, I love Stabilo so much, you can use it on a dry or a wet surface. And I'm just going to come back over that trunk ever so slightly. Stabilo is very strong. It's like driving a race car. And I'm just going to very little bit, just little places, add a little bit of Stabilo. Just a little bit, because it is a strong pigment. With my brush, a little tighter control. This is loose control. I often paint from here. This is how we stay loose. When we want to tighten up, we scooch up and tighten up our grip on the brush. You spread that out over there. I'm going to just smudge some of this, some of that Stabilo, kind of get it moving around a little bit on my tree. It's going to create some gray in some cases as it mixes in these other colors. And in that way, it just adds a little bit more. Look at that. Doesn't that look cool? You know, I want a little bit, maybe I'm just going to drag that down. It gives a little shadow right there. And then because I am such a splatter queen, I'm going to grab a little bit of that blue. There we go. A little bit of Quin Gold, a little bit more water. And let's let gravity help me out a little bit. There we go. I am a bona fide drip queen. Now, if I don't like what's puddling here at the bottom of the page, do you see that? Then I will just take this paper towel and just ever so gently pat it up a little bit. There we go. All right. That is a nice little forest tree inspired by the forest here that I live in Southwest Washington. And I teach classes just like this online and in person. I teach a deeper dive of how to create a forest scene. I would love to have you join one of my live streams or one of my in-person classes. I am Pamela Sue Johnson. Let's make some art.